Dr. Hamid Shirvani has been a student, a scholar, a professor, a president, and a chancellor. He holds not only a Ph.D. from Princeton University, but a Master's of Landscape Architecture from Harvard, a Master's of Science from Rensselear Polytechnic Institute, and a Master's of Architecture from Pratt Institute. His experience of architectural planning has spanned not only the constructs of urban planning, but also how to construct a functioning university of education. Dr. Shirvani sits down with me today to talk about his experience as president of California State University Stanislaus and chancellor of North Dakota University System. He is now a consultant for higher education through the Higher Education Innovation Group. I'll let him tell you the rest. Now, let's get to business. Hello, Dr. Shirvani. How are you today?
I'm fine, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Oh, you are quite welcome. Now, an introduction to everyone listening to this podcast. This is Dr. Hamid Shirvani, PhD, LHD, FRSA, FRGS, FASLA of Higher Education Innovation Group. Dr. Shirvani, I went through this before we got on this podcast because in your emails, you always write professor. I was like, no. All those letters behind your name mean you are a doctor and you well deserve that. So explain to everybody why you still go by professor.
That's simply, when you've been in academia, someone like me who's been in academia for 40 years. So you're naturally in every even academic administrative position. I still was a faculty, so I still had a faculty appointment. Because I started as a faculty, as an assistant professor, then associate professor, then full professor, then department chair, then dean, provost, and then president and chancellor. During all this time as an academic, so you're still a professor. So, and then also there is in Europe, most of academics do like to be called professor. In United States, they prefer to be called doctor, so because it distinguishes them from other people who don't have a doctorate. So you're still our faculty. So that's the difference.
You gave us a short synopsis as to how you worked up through the levels of academia. What made you want to become someone of that level that you are now?
Well, actually, it just one led to the other. There was no plan. Naturally, like many other people, parents want you to be a physician. I mean, this is the first thing they asked, as my mother was putting pressure on me, and my father, of course, wanted me to be an engineer like himself. So architecture was a compromise. So I started with architecture, and so one led to the other, and I became more interested in research and more graduate work and questioning various notions of social and economic forces that form architecture. And eventually I got interested to get a PhD and then continue the research, and that's why I started academia. Although I practiced on the side for some times and do serve as consultant on various architectural and urban design matters. And that's because of my publication and research that has been on urban design. And and some of my publications have been very pragmatic and has been used in various city planning departments and has been translated in 11 languages all over the world. So that I'm involved in some practice, but I'm basically an academic, and I enjoy that. And then after you're in academic, you just up to me, I applied architecture to the academy, and that is putting the right combination of people, places, processes, and resources together to achieve an outcome. So I thought an academic administrator is a good architect. I mean, architecture is a field that you can apply to many things. You don't have to build buildings or cities. You can build your company. You can build a university. You can build an organization. I mean, Steve Jobs was a master architect. I mean, there are a lot of people like him that have built things. So we have had in the past, we have had political leaders who are an architect. Well, of course, these days we don't. So that's
so true.
Yeah. So so this is I'm gonna stop here.
You are a part of the Higher Education Innovations Group.
Yes.
What do you do with them?
Well, as I have been, I've gone up the rank of academia from dean to provost to president and chancellor. I've been 3 times in charge of the university or university systems. And then, of course, I decided to move away and serve as a consultant. So I joined 3 other partners, and we formed this company in 2018. And basically, we advise various universities and non-profit organizations on various matters, from doing a search for them for finding a new president, a new provost, a new dean, or to helping them to do fundraising, helping them to increase their enrollment, advising them on various complicated matters regarding NCAA and issues around athletics, because at least 2 of us served on NCAA boards. So we are familiar with these issues, and we've faced it. So they, and also the fact that right now many universities have a lot of problems, have a lot of issues. Based mainly economics, because universities in Midwest are losing students. Students usually want to be in East Coast and West Coast, and Midwestern universities are empty. I mean, their enrollments are down. So, and a lot of them that are private schools, they're dependent on tuition and fees. And so when there is no student, there is no money, and there is no money, you can't run a university. And then also, speaking of endowment, in a small colleges and universities, which are 1,000 or 2,000 students in the middle of no place, how much can you raise that the interest and income from that money would be able to support the university? Not much. I mean, there are here and there well-known colleges with very rich alumni that they of course will survive, but not average colleges. So that's one issue. The other issue is that public institutions' budgets are keep getting cut, and tuitions are going up. So puts a lot of students out of reach of higher education. So that's and I can continue with that. So this is what we do so we just and we don't have a golden solution, but we just try to bring the best practices and really diagnose the issue and be honest. But sometimes we have advised in some situation that you better close the university down. There is no solution for that. There is, and as you know, Moody has projected that we are going to lose maybe. This is before COVID. They were saying 15 to 20 universities a year are going to be closed, but mostly private schools. But now I haven't heard new stats, but I'm sure there are going to be more very soon. So
you touched on some of the subjects that we're going to dive into. Let's start and dive right into them. Let's talk about free speech on campuses, because that is a big thing right now. We keep seeing in the news. We keep seeing it with Penn. We've seen it with Harvard. We've seen it with Cal State, your own alumni that you were a part of, with free speech and the line that is coming between free speech and hate speech. How do you deal with something if a university comes to you in a crisis situation and says, we need help with this?
Well, I give you a very brief kind of prelude to that, and that is, I firmly believe, people that like me that have not been fortunate to be born in this country, it's to me, it's greatest privilege that I have in this country is that free speech. Because in many countries you can't open your mouth, so that's that's every day I'm grateful to have this opportunity. So I think I'm very staunch supporter of the free speech, and I think administrators who damper and try to muck around with that are not doing it the service. However, I think without decodifying or without trying to control, if one sets a tone that profanities or uncontrolled behaviors and angers and those compassionate is okay, but anger is not. Name calling and any of these stuff is not free speech, but is insulting and is offensive. Those are not codification, but establishing a professional decorum on campus that you have to abide by these rules, otherwise we're going to stop it. So you can say whatever you want, but in a very polite and very a kind of professional manner. You can express your even you can express your anger or obsession with someone, but not in a way that is offensive to other people. And that can, some argue that it's not possible. It is possible, it is possible. So it could be a little bit of gray area, but I don't think in that gray area one makes a right decision or wrong decision. We are just going to micro behavior, and that's irrelevant. The relevant thing is that you have to have something, as long as we don't shut them up in that notion. And it will react, but not only is bad thing to do, but it will extend the fire rather than put the fire out. That's my opinion. I've had these experiences, and I'm grateful that I've been successful in that area. I've not had the problem that flames up. Because I think my thing was that I didn't hide behind 10 vice presidents and 20 deans, and I walked in personally among the students, got the microphone, talked to them, talked to faculty, talked to staff, and answered all their questions, got all the tomatoes and eggs, and and then things got fine, and I was able to make a negotiate with them. But when you have a president hide in that ivory tower and sends lieutenants, it's not going to be a good solution, as they do now, because they don't want to be in the front line. So that's the problem with the administration to a large extent. So
you brought up that you are an immigrant. You are Iranian, correct? So have you ever felt that personally, being on a campus and being, maybe targeted or looked at in a certain way?
Many times. I deal with it in a more, kind of soft, I let it slip. Yes, that's even when I started, in higher education, when I started as an assistant professor at Penn State. It was very interesting because I started it, and there was this revolution in Iran, and Shah getting kicked out, and this mad religious fanatic crazy people, which is a totally different discussion, which of course West had a lot to do with bringing. Getting it, it's interesting. In 1953, they got rid of the most democratically elected prime minister and most sophisticated and most liberal and educated person, Dr. Mossadegh. They got him out and labeled him as a communist. And then they brought the Shah back, and then they fed him and they supported him. And some 25 years later, they kicked him out. And then they brought a bunch of mullahs from Dark Ages, which is insane. I mean, anyway. So then that stupid thing happened, the hostage taking of American embassy in Iran, and you wouldn't believe it. one day in State College in Pennsylvania, when there was hostage taking, I went to a gas station to get gas, and suddenly I saw the owner of gas station with a baseball bat coming to smash my car towards me. And you wouldn't believe it. If I would 1 second, I wouldn't push the gas and get out of there. My car, and he thrown the baseball bat towards the car. Thanks God it didn't hit my car. So I left, and I was worrying about, because it had an empty tank, so I can get to another gas station.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, there was a lot of, there were notes on my thing. There were, there's some other thing, feces on my car, and so it was a lot of issues, and some students dropping my class, and all of those things. But so that went out, and I've had during. Let's be positive. I'm still grateful with all these prejudice. I was able to be, a very young age a dean, and then a very young age academic administrators, and so there's still majority of people are wonderful people, and they accept you for who you are and not where you came from. So I have to say that. But I think I'm going to take a lot of your time. Otherwise, there was interesting. At one time, I was Dean of Arts and Sciences at the University of Massachusetts. They wanted to move some faculty from another college to my college, and so my secretary was at lunch and overheard those faculty members who were being transferred. They're talking to other faculty members, and they said if they have a choice between that other college, who's the name of the dean, which I don't want to mention his last name. The name of his first name was Aldo, and the faculty members say if we have a choice between Aldo and Ayatollah, we pick up Ayatollah. Would you believe this is how they were referring to me? But same faculty members, believe me, when they would see me from, maybe 20, 30 feet. Oh, good afternoon, sir. How are you, Dean Shirvani? They were putting their hands, really the thing, but the same. But so my secretary was really in fear, really angry, and says, you have to do something. They had no right to say that. So I laughed, and he says, you laugh and I'm angry? I said, yes, because at least they say if they have a choice between Aldo and Ayatollah, they pick up Ayatollah. So let's see how bad Aldo is, So, and he says, I can't believe your sense of humor. I said, yeah, that's how you have to take it. Otherwise, and I believe, prejudice is always there. So, there are white people who don't like white people, but they make an excuse. So it's just, but I try to explain when people would come to me, students would come to me, and that they said this faculty member is this and that, and I say you rise above it. You can't really control these very complex internal issues in people, but you can control yourself and just rise above it. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it personally, because it's going to hurt you, and then you're going to get reactive. Just if a person is, I'm sorry, I said if a person is an idiot, you don't want to argue. You can't turn an idiot to be a regular person, so normal person. Forget it. That's how I did it.
Well, unfortunately, we've had some issues that are way out of control with some of these universities, and one is the gender issue. We just recently had, I believe it was the University of Wyoming, had a sorority that a court ruled in favor of a biological male being allowed in a sorority. What are your feelings on these issues that are now bubbling up that never really had to deal with in the past?
Well, those are, this is interesting you say that, because, I've been here, close to 50 years in this country. And it was very interesting because I feel that when I came, actually, the notion of prejudice or racism and so forth was less than it is now. Perhaps at that time was with the people who were racist were more pronounced, and now is all subtextual, and it's not pronounced, but it is there, and you feel it, you see it, and you think so. But this issue, talking about the gender issue, is extremely complicated, because when you have dealing with mentality of people that are still, after all these years, the biggest, most powerful, most sophisticated country in the world still is struggling with notion of abortion. I mean, that's just crazy. The only country in the world that still uses metric system, the imperial system, and refuses to use metric system, while the whole world is using metric system. And they claim that that's our heritage. It's not your heritage. It was a British heritage and had nothing to do with the United States. It was imposed. So even British themselves dumped it many, many years ago and went to metric. And then how? So when there are these kind of issues, then the gender issue, which is a resolved issue in Europe, it's still, being a major problem. And then also court interferences that don't let universities make certain, more liberal decision about these things. But I really don't have any golden solution, because whatever solution you have, you deal with the students who come from the families who have a different value system. So student the particular student has been brought up with that certain value system and cannot accept it. And by the time you want to change those value system, it's so impossible. You may impose it, but they will take it with unhappiness. So and by the way, that has caused some students leave a university, go to another university. So that's, and the more divided country we are, I'm forecasting that many of very conservative universities, they're going to have conservative students to go to those universities, and then liberal go to other universities. Is becoming really bad, because we set examples from our political leaders, which are like that. It's really a very, universities are a reflection of somehow of outside, and being controlled by outside, whether we want it or not. Because the final decisions in a lot of the top decisions are made by board of trustees, and board of trustees are a bunch of people who, many of them don't have even sometimes they don't have anything beyond the high school diploma, or if they have a degree many years ago in whatever, and they've never read a book in the past 30 years. And but they were a friend of governor or contribute to the governor's campaign, and they sit on the board. And so that's the kind of thing, and that they're the one who hire and fire presidents. So you have to realize how it reflects that. So that's a real complicated issue that I really I can give you band-aid solutions, and the solutions that are temporary and resolves and makes everybody reasonably happy, not fully happy, but at least reasonably happy, and it doesn't escalate the problem, but they're not real solutions, because we have to go through this transition of culture to advance. But I'm really proud of, I wanted to, on a positive note, I want to say I'm very proud of this new generation of students, because there are way more students that are getting involved in political issues, in expressing their views, for a while, universities were absolutely quiet and dead. Now universities are very active in a variety of issues, and I hope it stays that way.
You just brought up recently, when you were talking about all of that, the board of trustees and students leaving if they don't like the system. Now, you have personally been in one of those thrust into one of those issues where you had a vote of non-confidence against you. And you came back the next year and were voted president of the year. So.
Well, first of all, it's important to, we talk, I mean, maybe I voluntarily put that out. Universities, as we said, they have a lot of problems. One of them is financial, but there are equally more important problems. One of the major problems that very few people talk about it is the governance issue. And because of, in fact, the system of universities, that this board of trustees, which usually are not very qualified, there is no sense of qualification in them. Versus, for example, in England, when they have these boards and so forth, they look at people's credentials. It's not the matter of who, how intellectual you are, how, or even, they appoint community advocates, but how much respect that person has in the community, and so on and so forth. But here is strictly either appointed, and in some places are elected, even the worst. I mean, they get elected, so you can elect your buddy and put him there to make sure that, okay. And I faced with those. I work with those people. Okay, so that's one thing. And then the other thing, since these board members, one of their top issue is not the matter of controlling university. That's the interesting issue. One of their top issues is that there would not be any noise. No noise. They don't like noise. So as a result, they hire presidents, which are, go along, get along, and they do zip change. They come in, get a good salary, good house, good car, everybody is good, whatever it is, every problem comes in, they delegate it to 1 million committees, and it's going to like like federal government. It just goes on and on and on for a study. And then after 3 years, they come in and say, by the way, whatever we were doing is fine. So there's nothing. So there are, in many cases, at least in academia, that happens. Or if there are any changes recommended, it's all superficial. Okay, so that's one of the, so there is no leadership, because if you have real leaders have to make changes. I mean, look at it. I mean, just give you one single example. Lou Gerstner, IBM was dead, was finished. Lou Gerstner came in. What did he do? First day, 200 people fired, 300 offices were closed, whatever. So move money around, rebuild everything. That's what needs to be done in universities. But and the minute you move a brick in the universities, all hell turn loose, and the faculty, because faculty, many of them don't want to work harder, they don't want to do more, and they're used to a very laissez-faire style. So and some of them work very hard. But it's not the matter of those. I'm not saying at all generalize, but there are a percentage of people. But the unfortunate thing is that once you focus on one of those few, everybody else comes in their support, because they're afraid if you can get rid of those few and clean up and work it, then next time you go after them. You see, that's the unfortunate thing about it. And so there is that culture. So the fact that there is no money, it's not the matter of money, it's the matter of there is no leadership to tighten the budget, to reallocate, to try to restructure, recreate, reinvent, for example, just simply by this, everything after COVID moving to online, for many, many years, faculty were against online higher courses. Now, after COVID, they learn and they don't want to come back to university. So all this infrastructure is sitting down there, is a waste of taxpayers' money. What do? Nothing. So just keep pumping the money down. But who dares to say, well, I want to, let's sell some of these dorms. Let's get rid of some of these buildings and put the money into more equipment or more faculty members, et cetera, et cetera. So there is none of those. And part of it is the board and board structure and the leadership. So the good university presidents, I'm sorry for this long-winded thing, get actually punished for if they do a good job. And it has happened on and on and on and on. And the case that we have talked before about it, for example, Temple, well, you know, when you keep wanting astronomical salaries and so forth, which university cannot afford, what do? You say no. And then no is so in my case, I can tell you very specifically, which you may laugh at it, is that when California State University Stanislaus was established, since it was middle of California, they decided to take 2 weeks out of fall semester and 2 weeks out of the spring semester and connect it and make a 4 weeks winter term, they call it. So when we have 15 weeks fall semester and 15 weeks spring semester, fall and spring became like 13 weeks, and then winter term became 4 weeks, so that they arrange a trip or you know, variety of traveling courses and take them out of the Central Valley and all of those things, and also take them to major cities and do tours and you know, do workshops in those cities. And it was very good educational thing. So continued, but for many years, the faculty would teach the 12, the 4, and the 12. Now, over the time, faculty decided, well, we hire part-time for the 4, and we just teach the 12. So they're getting salary of the entire month, and then the 4 weeks course, winter term, are taught all by part-time faculty. But part-time faculty costs $2.5 million to university, which, you know, and then yet the faculty getting full-time salary and working 24 weeks instead of 30 weeks. I'm sorry, 26 weeks instead of 40. So, so several the presidents prior to me, they wanted to deal with that issue. In the last minute, when they wanted to make a decision, faculty came in and put a vote of no confidence on the table. You do it, we take it. So don't do it. And the president backed down. You know, in my case, I said, no, I'm not backing down. And which, of course, I paid for it. And, you know, I felt that it's better to do the right thing. But later on, you know, this was my first presidency. Later on, I realized, honestly, doing the right thing is not the right thing to do for you. It's the right thing for your conscience, is the right thing for your professionally, but it's not the right thing personally, because you get hurt. You know, yes, the administrative board backed me up, and I continued to be president until I went with my own will to a better position. So there was that. But you know, this issue stays on you, like, you know, like you know, being impeached in you know, in, you know, so it's there. But in we in academia, we call it badge of honor for that vote of no confidence. But at the same time, it hurts you. What I'm saying personally is that when there are, I still have to explain every time with all my credentials, which, you know, are very solid and very extensive. Still, when they hire me as a consultant, by the way, what happened? So I have to explain. Every time I have to explain, you know, and that is hurtful, because I did the right thing. And so, of course, I have to be occasionally, you know, 2 out of 10, some people say, you know, I want you to help me because exactly what you've done over there, because you stood by it, you know, by the doing the right thing and making moral decision and all of those things. So, but 8, they're just quiet. That's what we are facing today in higher education, and that's a very fundamental issue. That you come to a crossroad that whether you have to you want to do the right things, or just roll over and say, fine, I'm not going to sacrifice myself, or I'm not going to hurt myself into doing that. And that's why higher education is in such a bad shape. I'm sorry. But that's what it is, because we like we are now in shortage of good political leader at the governor's level, at any level. I mean, at presidential level, and the choices and everything else. We have the same thing, because a lot of the good, smart faculty who are also good leader don't want to run, because they say, I'm not going to be a marionette. I want to get on there and do something. And when I do something, they pull the rug from under me and punish me, So, and then there has been in history, there has been few occasions that those presidents won because they had a fantastic board, like Boston University, John Silver, that, really, you couldn't, I mean, he was single-handedly making every decision until they put the university. But look at Boston University. Was a loser university back in 70s, but look at it now. It's a major research university. So, and there are several other presidents that have done that, but they had the good board, and boards are not many of them are not that good. So that's I wanted to give my 2 cents here, because I'm glad you asked that question.
Let's shift to, as you just brought up, how universities are run like governments. And the big issue right now is about the student debt and what happened in Washington with student debt forgiveness. Everyone is now pointing at everyone else saying, well, these students take these courses that are not needed, or they rack up all this debt and now they don't want to pay it back. And the taxpayers are getting upset saying, well, I shouldn't have to pay for this. What do you, as not only a professor, but as a president and as someone who is dealing with these issues right now for universities, have to say about what's going on?
It's, as I'm sure by now you realize that I'll try to be as transparent and open as possible. So both sides are right. Yes, if you, again, comparing it to European universities, not in England, but let's say in Germany or in France and in Spain and Scandinavian countries, universities are free for citizens. Yes, but they're also, the standards are higher. That's the question that is very important. The standards are higher than here. So from the perspective of people who say that's a waste of my tax dollar money, they have some points. From the students that they say, look, how can I afford it? And particularly a lot of students from a very low income families, they suffer. And that is also true. But universities have failed to present the case that they're really doing a great job, because when the public hire graduates that can't write a business letter, when you look, as a university president, we would hire, I mean, I wouldn't, but my the assistants would hire secretaries, basic secretaries and so forth, or receptionists that they couldn't even use the correcting mechanism of the software. I mean, there was a disaster so everything and they had college degrees, from, and I don't want to mention, but from reasonably good universities. So, and it goes back to the K-12 education, which is, we have been talking about fixing it for years and nothing has been fixed. Again, you come to the labor union, teachers union and all of those things, and doesn't come. So there is, and then they argue about low salaries and this. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. So it's true that quality of graduates are in question, and I can tell you they are. And part of it is very simple, because public may not know that. The faculty want to protect themselves. So if they take the level of discourse high, the standard to a good level, they have to fail a lot of these students. If they fail a lot of these students, a lot of these students will leave. And then in addition to that, this is from the faculty. So the faculty tries to bring it down to protect himself or herself and the department and the major. But that's not all. We shouldn't blame all faculty. That's one factor. The other factor is there these rules and regulations that comes out that first was the subject of K-12, which made K-12 educated poor teachers miserable because they don't have the freedom to tell the students, look, what did you do? This was a disaster. Go and read more. Oh, if you talk like that to a student, you get fired. Mm-hmm. So, but that's wrong. I mean, I went to Catholic school, so, and I'm, it was harsh, but I'm grateful because that harshness, that, that discipline taught me, that who I am. So the same thing with the faculty member. You have to, these days, you can't say you have failed. You have to say you haven't achieved the level. That's a joke. What do you mean? You failed. It's failure. I mean, come on. When you get, a D or, F, you're F. So, no, but you can't use it if everything is being codified into this language and all these mumbo jumbos, which are frustrating. So what happens? A lot of these things are contributing to a lower and lower and lower level. So the people come in and we have it's gotten to the point that in my university, believe it or not, this to give you one example, one student for 3 consecutive times has taken the only math course she had to take to graduate because her science requirements was waived, so it was only one. And you know what that course was? Finite math. And I had, as a president, I had no clue what finite math is. Finite math, something like. And then I asked Dean of the student, what the heck is this course? He said, sir, it's about balancing your checkbooks. I swear that's how bad it is. And she failed 3 times. So finally, they asked me whether I would agree to just let her go because there is no way. And so that's, I mean, we have other problems, other solutions, other issues that I can go on and on. But this is in my own. So then in different period, I have hired people who are disaster. People have hired people in that. Companies all the time are complaining about this issue. And that's the reason a lot of people are saying, no, I don't want a bachelor's degree. I don't want a good high school, very smart high school kids to train them how everything works and teach them. So in this context, people are right that why should be tuition free? Why university cannot reallocate some money? Why tuition, they bring the tuition down? Why they can't do some entrepreneurial things? I did millions of dollars of that. I would lease the university in the evenings when they were empty for a variety of activities, generate money. I would over the weekend flea market, this, that, generating money. You have to be entrepreneurial. University presidents, those, yes, unless you're president of Harvard or Princeton with sitting down on $1 billion of endowment, then and those people also work hard all the time because they have to constantly chase donors to add up the money. So those days are gone that university presidents sits in their offices and read newspapers or reports and sign papers. You got to get out there and be creative. So try to bring the tuition down, try the expense. And I think instead of just writing off all tuition free, trying to look at the budgets of people and helping those who really are needy. And but eventually I agree with the tuition free university, and community colleges are almost free now in some states. At least the community colleges could be free and so forth. And then yet the people who are I'm supportive of those people because we spend so much money on wars and much guns and arms and all these things. I mean, we spend, I don't know, never know the exact number, but I've heard $1 trillion, $2 trillion on Afghanistan to to get Afghanistan out of Taliban, and after 20 years give them back to Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
But the money didn't leave the United States, was not spent there. In addition to, God knows, the huge number of people, Americans, who coming back with one arm, one leg, for what? But yet this $1 or $2 trillion could have been spent on education, on universities, on teachers' salary. If you take in defense of teachers, the union would be nobody if you turn the teaching salary to 100,000, 120,000. I can bet you that a lot of smart people want to be teachers if you offer that salary. And then the schools will change. Schools will change immediately. Would be high quality. But when you pay 50,000, 40,000 or something, you get the leftovers. That's what you do. You pay. You want honey, you got to pay money, and that's really the essence of that. So I'm sorry that I'm not trying to mix it up, but there's the complication that I'm going around. So I think if we prioritize education, which it should be, then we can come to free universities, and we should. But at the same time, we have to demand that the quality has to be excellent. So we can't just waste tax dollars money. So as long as the and we have talked about it for many years, and that one is a controversial issue. That look, why don't you have a final exam in the bachelor's degree? Whether you get a bachelor's degree in sociology or psychology or engineering or whatever you do, take a final exam, and that exam should be a state exam, not the university conducting. Oh, you talk to higher education. No, we are self-governed. No, I don't believe in self-governing. When you see self-governing, it's questionable because it has to be always external. So that somebody has to watch you to have the checks and balances. So why? This is a simple solution. Oh, accreditation, this, that. No. Final exam conducted. Yes, you can get the best professors and say, set up these exams with as to what should be a level of intellect of a person to have a bachelor's degree. Then we have fantastic thing. And when the students fail that exam, it reflects on the university. That university is doing a bad job. I mean, if 60% of students getting D in that exam from X university, then it's not a student, or they're not the student's fault, is the fact. But if 5% to 10%, failed the exam, the university has done their job. Is the student, and so there are easy solutions, but as I'm sure you know better than I, that many times easy solutions don't work because not very many people like it. It puts them out of business. So,
exactly. No, exactly. And you brought up a very good point about the quality of the education. Elon Musk very recently was openly telling people, don't be afraid to apply at Tesla or apply at any of my companies if you don't have a college education, because I would rather take those minds that are moldable and make them the way I want them. How do you feel about that? That, he's basically saying, like, well, the quality of education isn't going to do what I'm doing.
Honestly, I think it's happening already, without him saying. I mean, I appreciate what he's saying, but it's happening already. If I'm not sure whether you know that, there are no percentage of female in universities that are higher than male. So we're talking about 55, 45, and it's growing. So a lot of the male students don't continue in universities because when they're, because of the advent of internet and all this social media and everything else, and everybody reads about everything that they're interested and they have knowledge, and a lot of the students go to this entrepreneurial spirit in the high school eras and start buying and selling different things, and so it's not, I'm not talking about the stocks and bonds and any of these things. I'm talking about the commodities and goods and whatever. It is a very small thing. So then they think about My own, I have two nephews, and one of them, and both are in high school. One of them, was very much wanting to be go into biology and become a doctor. Now he's, coming back to me and say he wants to be a chef. I'm serious. I mean, and I thought he's joking, but he's really serious. And he's getting a job in one of these restaurants to learn from the bottom and so forth. And he has his ideas about, and is, a 16 years old kid, believe me, cooks, you wouldn't believe it, extraordinary meals. So and he says, I'm going to beat that MD, because by the time I finish the 8 years and residency 10 years, I probably have a restaurant that make the same amount of money. And, so there are these kind of mentalities that are prevalent. And then from the receiver side, I can share with you that during my entire career, I'd realized since the early 2000 that we had to hire people in IT fields that had no bachelor's degree and had to pay them $60,000-$70,000 because they were good. All we wanted them to, one of their main job was go to the faculty offices or to university labs and load the softwares and make these computers work. So the students and faculty constantly complaining, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So they go and quickly fix it, load it, fix it, make sure the network works, make sure the softwares work, and so forth. And that's all we wanted them to do. And 9 out of 10, no bachelor's degree. Expectation, 70, 80. You don't pay me, I'll go somewhere else. And would be snapped in 2 seconds. No, we pay you. We pay you 5% extra, 10%, stay where you are, please. Because if they were not there, the whole system would be down. And these kids, learned it someplace. I have no idea how they learned it, but they were amazing. Even myself personally, I would say, "Oh, okay, call Joe again or whatever," and there's, "Oh, please," I said, "Oh, no worry, sir. Let me this is the okay." Then you would say, "I fixed it for you. Next time you want to do that, just here. I have a box for you. Press here." So like I'm the dumbest person in the world, and he's organizing everything for me. And well, bless him. That was how. And the corporations work the same way. So that's how. And the kids realizing that, and they said it's not good for them. Why should they invest? And many of them just go to community colleges, and that's I think community colleges are becoming more and more and more attractive, because in the community colleges they can teach them techniques, and is no nonsense. Get to the action. The problem is that. The main problem is that we are not having a very highly educated society to be able to think. But that comedian, I forgot his first name, Garland, or I can't, he has a long hair in the back.
That comedian was George Carlin.
Garland, bravo.
Yes.
Kind of front bald like me, he was saying that we don't want thinkers, we want doers, because that's how our educational system has been set out for that purpose. And honestly, I think he has a lot of merit in that. We have universities which, educate thinkers, Ivy League and quasi-Ivy League, the top 200 universities, at least top 150, they really educate great thinkers. But then the average universities, I think I would question that they educate a few thinkers, because those students were good students to begin with. And why? There are many factors in higher education. How many pages of books these people read, as opposed to people in other countries? Okay, they use internet, but how many pages on the internet they read, rather than sitting down and playing with their computer those games, or going through the pages of Instagrams and putting heart for different things. So, so there is a difference. And so that's the drawback of being too pragmatic. And even with Mr. Moss, those people get trained to do what Elon Musk telling them to do and mold to that mentality. What if, and certainly will happen, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this notion of electric car and the thing is abandoned and something else has come up. What do they do? But if they be able to think, they can adjust and move and do other things, and that's the problem. And that's the problem that if you ask many people, in these days, as several comedians in television, they used to do that. If you ask many of the students, where is Nicaragua or where is Iran, they wouldn't know the difference between Iran and Iraq. And probably out there, that's the answer you can. Even they don't know who's the president of the United States at this stage. Sometimes, or who was the last president. And so these are they are very dangerous situations that we unfortunately have, and this stems from education.
Parents are becoming more concerned that, and you brought this up, that when they go to school, and even elementary school now through university, that their kids aren't getting an education. They're being more indoctrinated into ideologies and thought beliefs.
That's right. That's correct.
How do you work with that, being, coming into the higher education innovation group that you are and saying, okay, well, we need to put a stop to this and we need to get back to the roots of education?
I can give you a lot of cliche answer, which I won't, but I give you go to the bone of it. The bone of it is that like, at least in my period, my high school was in England, so I did O levels and A levels. But I think the same period in the United States, K-12 education was way more serious, because when I started my teaching career, my academic career in 1979 at Penn State, the students that I had were way more knowledgeable than they are. At least, because I was teaching architecture, many of them knew major painters, Picasso, Matisse, Renoir, they knew it. These students, you ask them, zero. I have no clue. If you ask where classicism came in or modernism first, where was Baroque period? They look at you like, nothing. No, many of them no. It's well, the best answer you get. Well, I read it. I forgot. Yeah, I know. I mean, I forgot. I was not interested in this or that. Interested in that. So. That's where that's where we are. And the part of it is that in high school, the volume of assignments that first of all, they don't teach them. And by the way, I wanted to say I gave some credit to European. I can tell you right now, European universities are as bad as American universities. So it's not any different, because everything is watered down. And so what it is, the volume that they have to teach, they don't teach. First of all, they don't teach. They come to the classroom. Well, did you read this? Did you read? So what do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Oh, come on. This at high school level, that's too early to ask person for opinion or this or that or what they read. You just have to give them the teaching. You have to get out there and present material. And then, at the end, you can ask, so to have that dialogue. And not what is their opinion. Ask them, repeat that, ask, interpret so that they learn. And you have to create excitement in the class so people pay attention, so they don't, they don't go to daydreaming and whatever. Some of these teachers are extremely boring, are not animated, are not, presenting the material are not engaging. And then the volume is so minimized. And then assignments are minimized. They're not very, very extensive. So students, when they come home, they don't, their homework is nothing. It's just not heavy enough. And then the teachers cannot, part of it is the teachers, but part of it is also that if there are serious teachers who give a lot of assignments and teach really hard, then students complain to their parents complain to the headmaster, to the principal, and principal comes in and say, hey, tone it down. That's how bad it's got. So as a result, we get the input, which is the minimal input in the universities. And the same method continues. I mean, for example, there was this great, and then the universities, we haven't really, another issue that is very important because it relates to that, is that we have not come to a conclusion at the universities in this country, whether bachelor's degree is a degree that we teach the students how to think, or bachelor's degree is a degree that we teach them a profession. You see what I'm saying? In reality, it has to be both. You have to, they have to learn something, that good knowledge of the field that they're in, but they also have to be able to think. Well, then the question comes up, if they have to be able to think, shouldn't they study great books? Because that's the foundation of democracy. Well, then you come up with a lot of faculty who say, well, first of all, that's elitism. Which is not elitism at all, it's absolutely
reading
not.
A book is elitism.
Great books, okay. Even if you're critical of a text, you have to first read the text and then argue counter text. But you don't know the text, don't you dare to criticize it. You have every right to criticize, but you have to read the text and then propose a counter text. So that's what. But then another argument, which is very politically very smart, that the students are not able to understand. Their ability, their background is so weak that they can't read any of these books because it's so complicated. The fog factor is too much. That means the words and so forth. So, well, teach them. There are no books that explain every one of these great books, from Aristotle to Cicero to everybody, in a very simple language as the essence of what they have said. You can make the steak, cut it, put the sauce on it, open their mouth and put it in their mouth, because that's what it takes. But that's not happening. Because it takes effort. It takes effort, and we are not. And then the argument comes up that we're also going to lose the students, and that's true, because if the student says this university is hard, moves to the other universities, they give them a smoke and mirror and passes by. There are a lot of complication with that, because the accrediting agencies are not very good, are not doing their job. Again, is a show and tell thing. Department of Education is not imposing some rules, because then it gets to this notion, states are free to do whatever they want. There's too much central control and so forth. So there are all of these issues that makes, in the meanwhile, that's why the parents that do care about their loved ones, and they are educated, they do anything possible. You have no idea that how much I get, they seek my advice, different people that I know, and from when their kids are 14 years old, I want my kid to go to Princeton. I want to go to, please tell me what to do. They get consultant, they get private tutor and so forth, and they do anything possible for their kids to go to Ivy League, or go to Duke, to Vanderbilt, to Rice, to University of Chicago, Northwestern, because they want them to get good education. So that's because they don't want them to go to average university, because they know that the education they get is not. It doesn't teach them how to think. Doesn't really give them any perspective in life, and so that's what we have a major problem. And same problem, of course, exists in Europe too. The level of discourse has come down radically. I'm sorry, and that's unfortunate.
We do have some really amazing teachers out there. I am hooked on Texas A&M professor of physics, Tatiana Arukamova. I think that's how you say her last name. But she is taking these young kids and she is getting them so psyched for physics. And it's so amazing to see that. And it's actually cool that they are using social media to get everyone together to start getting interested in education and grasp these young minds and remind them, hey, it's not all about the TikTok dances and everything. Let's scroll through and see the good things that are coming with these universities.
I can't agree with you. You know, I have to admit, even in the most worst. I mean, in the most average universities in this country, there are always a good number of faculty who are brilliant. You know, they don't have to be a Harvard professor. They don't have to be MIT professor or Chicago or Berkeley. They're average university professors, and they're doing brilliant. And they mentor and they teach wonderful kids, and they graduate and they're successful. So that's always there. There is no doubt about that. And I had the privilege of working with a lot of these faculty members, and they are now my friends and in different institutions, and they're always there. And a good percentage of them, they're not like too few, but it's the system that causes a lot of them. And these people go way beyond their ability. I mean, beyond their time, and they devote their time to do a good job, and because they're committed to teaching. And those are very rare. And unfortunately, my problem, my comment in that with those people is that we don't appreciate them enough. We don't pay them enough, or we don't recognize them enough. We don't acknowledge them enough, and they're usually not political. Good faculty are not political. They have no interest in politics. They're quiet and they do their job. They come and go and they do a brilliant job, but we don't recognize them. Unfortunately, that's the thing. And if you would have recognized them and compensate them rightly, I think we would have had a much better universities. But the system has done. I mean, as a president, if I wanted to do that, which I did, but it was very difficult, and I couldn't do it the level I want, because then you immediately get into president is making decision without consultation, without union approval, without the faculty approval. Well, the faculty will reject, because they say, if you want to increase his salary 5,000, well, all of us deserve 5,000. You see what I'm saying? That's how it is. So there are so much complication, but yes, there are a lot of faculty who are doing a good job, and still I believe that I have to say in the closing, I still, with all the problems that we have the best university system in the world. We still have the best university system. Even at one time, I thought there are few universities, probably a dozen universities in England, and a few in France that are at our level. But by far we are the best university. We have the best university systems and I'm hoping that we can advance and resolve some of these problems.
Well, I think we will. And we have been going for over an hour now, so I have to let you go. But where can parents, faculty, anybody that is looking for guidance with the university system, where can they find you on social media?
Well, I have a website, hamidshirvani.com. Easily they can they can contact me, and there is also they can contact me at the Higher Education Innovation Group, and then I also the email is rightcollegeforyou at icloud.com. Right College for You. All lower letters, Right College for You at iCloud.com.
I will connect all of these within the body of the podcast, and people could get a hold of you or follow you or go visit the website and see more of what you are doing with Washington and California and all of these other big universities.
I appreciate it. I'll send you my Instagram, which is at Dr. Shirvani. I'll send you all three of them. All of 4 or 5 of them. I'll send it to you.
Awesome. And I will link them within the body of the podcast. And it'll be great that people can just contact you right through there and be able to follow you and see what you're doing. Dr. Shirvani, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit down and talk.
It was an honor. Thank you so much for asking me. It was delightful.
My name is Tatiana Ryan. This was Dr. Professor Hamid Shirvani. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.